Hey there, today on Tom's Tech Show, we're talking about colocation and should you do that? So we hear these terms flying around about COLO, colocation. What is it? What should I do that? How's that going to benefit me in my company? And we'll discuss what it is first, okay? But first, if you like and subscribe to my channel, it helps the channel out. I'm trying to build this year. It's gonna definitely continue on. We're 6 months in, so it seems to be doing pretty good. But if you could help me out, like, subscribe to my channel, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you for everybody who's subscribed so far. I mean, it's been great. Had a lot of great interaction and stuff between everybody. I enjoy that and stuff. So okay. So here we go. Colocation. What is it? Why is it? Why should I do this? Should I set this up? What am I doing? Here with colocation. Well, colocation is basically a rentable data space. So there's different levels of it. So you can rent a server in a data center somewhere that a data provider, the hosting company, will provide you a full server and the hardware if it's something small. You can also go as far as a half rack or a full rack or a set of racks, or if you have enough space that you want to take up, sometimes they will give you a complete cage that you can take up a whole entire cage and move your own computer equipment into that room. So it's just basically a big racks and racks of servers that have a bunch of benefits for being in there. Okay, so what are the things that we get? Okay, it's rentable data space. We get scalable networks. I recently had one of my clients who they wanted more bandwidth. So if I say I have AT&T, and they say, okay, you're on DSL and you want to go to fiber and we want to upgrade this. Well, I recently had a client do this, and it took practically 6 months because AT&T has broken everything out. The install people and the setup people are different from these people and the support people, and you're talking to India and all this stuff. And it took a long time in order to get that increase in bandwidth to switch from the DSL to the fiber. Well, data centers already have multiple fiber lines coming in, and they're allocating you a percentage of their data space to your rack or server or whatever is there. So recently we had to turn up someone's data, and I said, we're at this level, they want to go up to this newer level. Okay, this is going to be X more dollars a month for this newer level. Okay, that's great. When can it be done? Said we have a 48-hour turnaround, and boom, it's done. Now you're going to have more bandwidth, quickly and easily. You can even go as far as to say during certain times, you can turn it up and then go back to them and say, okay, we've gone through this inventory, sales boost, whatever. If you're running a retail online store and it's heavier in Christmas or different things like that, you can turn it up during certain times. And then when your traffic is less, you can turn it down during those other times. So it really provides that great flexibility when you're in a colocation center. Also, colocations have redundant power. So if I am at my own location, I'm going to have UPSs for backup. Sometimes if I'm at my own building, like my own office space, right, I may not have two methods for getting electricity. Often bigger colocation facilities will actually have two separate connections to the power grid. So if one of those happens to go down, then presumably and hopefully the other one will stay up. They also have these big, huge, gigantic generators out back that are capable of maintaining power for the entire facility for extended lengths of time. They have big diesel tanks that are constantly serviced. They flush the diesel through them all the time. and to keep them, they keep the diesel maintained and stuff, because otherwise they'll get water and stuff in it. And diesel can get mold and other weird things in it too. But those are constantly maintained. So, and if if the diesel tanks are getting low, you can just put more diesel in it, and it will keep it running. So, those are some definite big power, benefits of having enough power. So there's also environmental controls, not just air conditioning. So in your lab, your data center, your environment that you have at your office, you probably I have temperature sensors typically. I haven't put in humidity sensors. I've put them in before, but typically I leave off the humidity sensor because there's not, what can I do about it? I can, I guess, get a dehumidifier and put it in there if it seems too wet or damp inside. But they have those in the colocation, so they're maintaining cooling, and typically there are multiple AC units, backup AC units, and backup humidity controls, so that in case anything happens to one of the AC units, the other AC unit will kick in. And just like the power, if the power goes out, one of the generators goes down, there's a second generator that will maintain power for the building and for the AC and everything else. So it's very, 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 all these things are thought of by combining everybody's services together. It provides this buying power, right? When you're buying things like a Groupon thing, kind of, you're buying, everybody's going together to buy this one thing, and you get bigger discounts. And that's what they're doing by combining everybody's services together for the data center. Okay. So one other thing that you get is security. So when I go into the data center, I need my key card, and then I need to go to the front desk, and then they give me the key to my rack that's in there, and then I have to go to a little scanner. It's a hand scanner, so it's a biometric thing. It actually reads your hand, what you're actually handprint in, and then there's a PIN code that you have to enter. So there's a lot to be able to even get into the building and the room where all the servers are. So you're logged when you come in, you're logged when you go out, so they know who's going in and out, and you only have keys to your own specific space, so that you can't mess with anybody else's space while you're there. So it really provides that extra level of, if you have data that's really sensitive, that you have a lot of customer data, maybe social security numbers, credit card numbers, things like that, and you don't want anyone being able to have physical access to that, a colocation is not a bad way to do that. Okay, so that's kind of what colocations are. There's a couple different ways to get there, right? Like I said, you can buy, companies will rent you hardware that they have. They'll have servers that are there. They can rent you some of the servers, and then you can use those. You can also take your current hardware that you have in your office now and just move it, right? So make sure you have, data connectivity between the colocation and your office. That's going to be good enough, to be able to still run your business. And then just physically move your service and everything over. The only thing I don't like about that is you need to have multiple backups done before you leave, and probably have to leave at least a server behind, so that if something happens, you have to plan for this. This is line of business stuff. This is like critical line of business thinking, that what happens to these servers en route to the colocation facility. It's in a van. Is the van going to get into an accident that will then destroy the servers and all of the data on the servers? So even though you don't want that to happen, and chances are very low that will happen, it still needs to be planned on. And you have to have an insurance policy that covers the replacement of all that gear, when it's you should have that anyway in case your building burns down, but you need to have an insurance policy so that in case something does happen, that you can quickly get new systems and get them set back up. Okay, so that's that's my stress point about doing a move current hardware. So if you are, either way, you have to have backups and insurance, right? Either way you're doing this. Or you can buy new hardware and migrate your data to the new facility. Depending on how much data you have, you may be able to do this data migration over the internet, over the wire, to the colocation facility. You may, it may be too big. It depends on how long like your outage is going to be, how long your company can stand being down, right, during this move. If it's, if you can take being down the whole weekend, then maybe you can do the transfer over the internet, get everything set up at the colocation, then say, okay, we're going to move, and then transfer everything over the internet. If you have too much data or your window to move everything is too small, then you have to do what I've done before, which is back up everything to like a small NAS device. Actually, what we did was we backed up to 2 small NAS devices, put those NAS devices into 2 separate trucks, had those trucks take 2 separate routes to the colocation facility. So, I mean, it's a lot, but that was one way. We needed to ensure that once the data got there needed to be almost no way for that data to not get there, right? In order to do our restore and get business back running, within this 8-hour window that we were given in order to be able to do this. So as you can see, I also put this bullet point down here that every move requires extensive planning and documenting. So you need to know all the steps, right? So it's good to get, if you're going to do this, to try and find a partner somewhere who's done these co-location moves before, who kind of has some of these things, in place. Like, you need to have an insurance policy, you need to have backups before and after, you need to have, maybe multiple routes, to the co-location when moving the hardware. Some places will have special trucks with like hammocks in the back that the servers sit on that are, keep anything from being jarred. Because if you're moving them and, they get jarred too hard, or they're in the back of a truck and they slide forward and hit something, then that's, jamming the, the heads on the hard drive around, and the server may not boot once it gets to the other side. That's one reason I'm very much more in favor of buying new hardware. You get some things when you buy new hardware. When you're buying new hardware, you're getting newer, faster hardware. You're getting new, fresher hardware. You're not having to worry about, in the move, is this hardware going to fail because it gets jarred or bumped or something when it gets to the other side. You can also have all the hardware and the systems and everything up and running. Like if you're doing something that's virtualized, then you can have all the virtual hosts all up and running on the other side, and then all you have to do is either move your VMs or move the data back over there, right? So that gets your target in place and stable, knowingly stable. You can even do some practice runs if you have the new hardware over there, right? You can practice it, see how it performs, make sure the configuration is right for getting data back and forth if you're buying the new hardware. I really prefer that method of moving, but people don't always want to do that. They don't always put the money out, especially if they have, $500,000 of computer hardware in their lab or in their data center, and they're moving that. So that means they basically have to buy another $500,000 of hardware for the colo. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's kind of a mix. You buy enough hardware to get everything going, and then slowly trickle devices over there, as time and outage windows permit. Okay, here we go. Next slide. So what are the benefits and what are some of the problems that I see? Some that I've already been gone over a few, but we're going to just kind of finish this up with these. One is security. I'm calling this a benefit, definitely. Only the people that can get, at least physical security, only the people that can get to your hardware are people who have you given key cards to and had go through the security system at the colocation. And another thing is users can be remote more easily. So now basically all of your hardware systems, your your lab, your ERP system, your accounting system is all remote now. So it doesn't matter if people are at the office. They can still VPN or connect into the COLO and act and work just like they were at their desk. So a lot of more systems today are becoming web-based, so that is even facilitates that better. So you don't have to remote in. You just basically have to do a VPN connection and then start working from wherever you are, whatever coffee center, coffee house, other office place, that you might be visiting or something, or your home or whatever it is. Users can be remote, more flexible for them to, do their work. If people have like health problems, it will really help facilitate them getting back into work if they can do some work from home and help out, just all kinds of benefits, from that. One thing is about backups. So we still need to back up our data, but if in our little computer room that we had on location, we're going in and switching out tapes, right? If this stuff is now at a co-location facility, we're not going to be able to, we typically won't drive there every day and switch out tapes. There are some services that will go in and they will do kind of a tape switch out for you. It's expensive. The key thing would be to get onto some type of, digital backup. So instead of backing up to physical tape, you're backing up to hard drives. Have a NAS or something that's there, and then after it's backed up there, you still have, the data connection between the co-location facility and your computer room on premise that you probably still have, if you have enough bandwidth to be able to bring that data back over the bandwidth. So that allows you to create a backup local on site, and then at night, when everybody's gone home, hopefully there's enough bandwidth to get all that data from the backup moved across the wire over to your location. And then from there, you could probably put it on tape if you want it every month or something to do an archival, backup at the end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year, something like that. So that helps to get data backed up and offsite, because those are two things that you need to do as a business: backup and get a backup offsite, and then be able to still create archival backups for accounting and auditing purposes that you have those backups. Okay, so another benefit and kind of a problem is the access to the servers. Like I said, there's biometrics there that you need to put your hand in the little biometric reader. You have card readers, but this co-location facility may be 10, 20, 30. I have one that's like 40 miles away from where the main office is. So if you need to go do something or change something or add or remove hardware, doing something, you have to drive there, right? It's going to take time. And if something gets stuck, like a server goes down, you can't get it to reboot, something, the people at the co-location will charge you a fee to go in, and sometimes they don't charge you a fee to just reboot a server. Sometimes if it's called an emergency, then they will charge you a fee to go in and power cycle a server. It just depends. So that could be a plus because it's keeps your servers more secure, but it can be a minus because now you're having to do something, you have to drive there and all that. So the last thing here is the cost. It's going to cost money, yes, to move your servers into a colo. So like I think a half rack with data, somewhere I'm paying $600-700 a month. This one client is paying about $700 a month for that. But they have all these other benefits, right? They used to have all of the servers at one location. They have like 6 or 7 locations. They used to have it at one of the locations, and whenever the power went out at that location, all 7 locations were down. Now, because it's kind of a rural office, so now if the power goes off at one location, only that one location is down. Everybody else is working because everything is at the colo. And that one main location where all the servers were, they were paying a lot of money for the bandwidth that they were getting at the time. So that has been a benefit even though it does cost money to do that. But you are getting all these other things. You're not going to put in multiple diesel generators at your office. You probably aren't going to, put in redundant AC units with humidity controls, right? You're not going to have multiple connections to the power grid. You're not going to have multiple connections to the internet, through multiple providers. You're not going to have kind of a semi, close to on-demand access to more bandwidth. So you're gaining quite a bit. It is costing money, but you are gaining quite a bit in, reliability and uptime. And that's the real, one of the real benefits of moving servers to a co-location facility. All right. Well, that's kind of the end of my whole deal here, my explanation of it all. I've done this several times. It's been hair-raising sometimes, moving, across multiple states with equipment and stuff like that. But once things get settled into a co-location facility and everything is running, you kind of get to know the benefits of it. You kind of get to know that, okay, this is very helpful. This is, what we need to be able to do and get our company there and get it working. The next step after that, of course, after you do something like colocation, because colocation is basically a private, you pay for kind of version of AWS, right? So the AWS is a data center that has servers that you can basically, you spin up a EC2 instance, and so you're renting that from, Amazon, right? So it's kind of this similar process, but this you completely own and control. And there, of course, benefits, either way, Amazon can get to be kind of expensive, and co-locations are typically less money than, a huge enterprise in AWS. All right. Well, that's longer than I thought it was going to be, but thanks for hanging out for this long and going over this with me. If you got any comments or questions about colocation and how to do it and whether it's going to benefit you, just go ahead and comment down below. Like this video if this is going to help you at all. And thanks for watching this one.